What's going on, mi gente? It's Diego Montalvan here back today with David from the admin of the Uruguay Heroes account on Twitter to talk about Uruguay, their World Cup qualification campaign, and what is next. So first off, thank you, David, for your time. How are you doing today?
Yes, all good. Pleasure to be here. I'm doing fine. Just a week, and Uruguay will play again against Peru, obviously, and then against Chile. So yeah, I'm excited to look forward to these crunch games. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Now, this qualifying campaign for Uruguay has been a little bit of a roller coaster, right? You guys had El Maestro Tavares, who started off as coach, and now you have Diego Alonso. During those times, you've seen some changes in the team. How would you qualify the campaign if you had to grade it?
Um, well, if we look right now, for the last 16 games in total, um, would be well maybe 5.56. And I'm say this because we also have to look at the potential the squad has. Because on the Tavares, there are a lot of flaws, but the one which hurts me the most, and which is not a dick or disrespect on Peru or Colombia or Ecuador, but when you look at these teams or these squads and the national pool they have to deal with, Uruguay should be more challenging towards Argentina and Brazil. But except Uruguay were stuck in this race, this big race with all these teams, and that is just well, if you have the squad Uruguay have, it's not good enough. So overall, for Uruguay to be among these teams, which are all obviously really competitive and good teams, I would say it's well around a 5.556, this kind of area. Yeah.
What needed to change throughout the campaign? Obviously, we already mentioned the change in coaches, but what was it that kept Uruguay stuck? Because, like you said, they have a great squad, but they weren't performing to their full capabilities.
No, that's true. You're absolutely right. I mean, still, Uruguay were playing players like Valverde, Suarez, Cavani, although they might not be what they used to be. But these type of players, Taras Keita, for example, maybe a bit more unknown to the European audience, but a brilliant player. And these players were playing, obviously, but Uruguay were just a bit, or not a bit, a lot too pragmatic, too passive. For example, the game away against Peru, which is I think already a year ago now. Uruguay took the lead and then set back and sucked the pressure, and were really passive, not really trying to make anything happen. And it's okay to be defensive or to be a bit pragmatic, but Uruguay were just completely the other way around, and was too much. And this just limited the potential his team has from the footballing perspective. And with Alonso coming in, Uruguay are trying to be more proactive, imposing their play, their qualities on the opponent, while it was not the case on the Tavares. And I would add to this that also a lot of, or certainly two or three or four players still always got a place in their team on the Tavares. Vecino, who was playing always, Godin, who is doing well now in the last two games, but was always playing, while other options like Coates or Arajo were emerging. And players like, for example, Martin Cáceres, who I mean, I love the guy for everything he's done, but this is not a charity match or something, you know. We had Oliveira, for example, or Matias Vinha, or Alfonso Espino. These are just names who are playing week in, week out, showing the qualities in some of the best leagues, and they are just being swept aside for Cáceres because he was once a great player for Uruguay. And yeah, that is part of the problem. And hopefully, we are now moving forwards, which it looks like we are. Yeah.
For you, how did you feel about the decision for Uruguay to let go of El Maestro Tavares, and also to add on to that, how do you feel about Diego Alonso?
Well, I think the decision was the right one at the end, but the thing is, and which is what made it a lot more frustrating and more annoying for everybody, even if you are for Tavares, and I mean keep him on or against and to go in second, it was just not the right timing. With 4 games left, I mean the moment to sack him was probably 2 years ago, or certainly after the Copa of 2021. But yeah, that is just the incompetence of the Uruguayan Football Association. But that's another discussion. But it was the right thing to do, regardless. And Alonso, I think Alonso was, so there were some names. Aguirre was there. Gallardo was also being talked about. It was a bit of a dream. Never, I thought it never was realistic, to be honest, but it was a dream. Guillermo Amada, who was obviously doing brilliantly in Mexico. But Diego Alonso was free, so it was easier to do for the association. He was a free agent, and he also has done pretty good jobs in Mexico, for example, especially. So it was a good move and a good appointment. And he now, in the first two games, although these were not the most difficult games, he showed that he has given Uruguay a new lease of life. So I believe he is the type of manager who can bring more out of this team and can make Uruguay also an interesting challenger on the world stage. I'm not saying we are qualified yet, because I'm not trying to get this going, trying to jinx it or something like this. But I think with Alonso in charge, Uruguay can be positive again for what lies ahead.
I definitely agree. I feel like, I mean, obviously, all the respect to Maestro Tavares, who I think was a great coach during his time. Like you said, maybe a little too long. That's on the federation. Great. I was a little bit skeptical about Diego Alonso as well. Based on him, I've seen him here at Inter Miami in the US. I wasn't a big fan, to be honest. And I thought Uruguay could get better coaches because of the talent they have, the squad they have, the the history they already have, right? But nonetheless, under Diego Alonso, I've seen that breath of fresh air that you mentioned. I've seen it good. Now, for you during these qualifying campaigns, what was a key moment to change it around? Do you think it was the change of coaches, or was it before that, after that?
Yeah, I think the change of coaches for sure, because even if Tavares remained in charge for the last four games, I still think we might still qualify for the World Cup, because the games were more accessible. I mean, Uruguay came from a run which, for all four of them, two times Argentina, one time against Brazil, and Bolivia away, which obviously is always difficult. I mean, you can drop points there, obviously, but the manner in which it was done was just dreadful, which also led to the sacking. Because maybe if it been a bit more like 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 would be different, but the manner of how it was done was the reason for sacking. But getting back to my point, what I was trying to make is that um, even if this happened, Uruguay still had a chance to qualify with Tabares. But the bigger picture was that with Tabares, you would never, even if you qualified, challenged in the World Cup. And with Alonso coming in and giving this team a new lease of life and certainly a new identity, I mean, the way Uruguay played, not only at home against Venezuela, because at home, Uruguay have had brilliant games throughout the years, even when Tabares was going down, in terms of his management and credentials, in my opinion. But even then, Uruguay had brilliant games at home against good opponents. But with Alonso, even away against Paraguay, the pressing high up the pitch, trying to make this score a second instead of clinging on to the one goal lead. These are just positive changes, which only with the appointment of Alonso could happen, and not with staying with Tavares. So yeah.
For you, is there a game that comes to your mind that you say, man, that should have been a win, or damn, that could have been a loss, right? Is there any game like that for you?
I mean, the example Uruguayans like to bring up, certainly not now anymore because Uruguay are in a better place, but when it was not going well, is the game against Paraguay at home. And Jonathan Rodriguez scored a goal, and it was ruled out by VAR, which was just nonsensical. Um, so this is probably a moment, but for me, in my opinion, I don't really like to look at football like this. Uh, Obviously, when you have a one-off match, you can say it's decisive. But when you have a whole season or 80 matches, as we have in the qualifiers, things like this balance themselves out usually. And Uruguay had a late win against Chile, which I thought Uruguay didn't really deserve to win there. So you can argue that this is one that Uruguay got away with it. So at the end of the day, it balances itself out. You know, over 18 games, if you qualify, you are worth your qualification. You know, so yeah, but yeah, these two instances, I would say, yeah.
No, perfect, perfect. Definitely understandable because, like I've always said, I think the conmebol qualifiers are the hardest in the world. As you can see by the table right now, it's so close still that anyone can pretty much stay out or go in. So it's great to see. I mean, it's great for the competition for us, obviously. Great for a neutral fan. For you, was there a player throughout this campaign that stood out that you said, oh, this, he was the best, or maybe there was one that came in late in that wasn't known before?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a hard one to answer, I think, because I wouldn't say there's one particular standout who has carried Uruguay throughout this qualification process. I think Valverde has been one of the best players, for sure. I think Dallas Guetta has scored some goals, done well, and also, you know what, with Dallas Guetta, the thing is that most Uruguayans don't really like him. I mean, they like him as a player, but they feel he's a pecho frio, so he's not really feeling the shirt, which was said about Cavani as well a few years ago. But he's turned around quite well. So, I would like to highlight him because I mean, everybody who watches him knows he's just has this special thing in his feet, and he can make magic happen. And so I would like to say he's one of the best players. As a surprise, I think Matthias Oliveira, who only had 2 appearances yet, uh, that were given under Diego Alonso because with Tabares he was not given one chance. So I think he was a good surprise, him coming in and doing so well immediately. So he was someone we can think of that has won his place. And I'm not sure if you asked it, but I would also like to look at maybe the deceptions. I think Muslera has been a good servant over the years, but there was a period in his qualifiers for sure that he made 3 mistakes in 3 games, and big mistakes, which is unacceptable at this level, obviously. Godin has been able to turn it around in the last few games, but there are hints at him not being up to the level if we want to be competitive in the World Cup. And the front two, Suarez, Cavani, they can still come up with big goals, but overall, uh, it's obviously a far cry from what used to be the case with them when they were just carrying Uruguay. But yeah, I mean, with the emergence of Darwin Nunez, who has not played a lot in his qualifiers, he's had his influence, but not played a lot. This fading away of these two giants is softened a little bit because Darwin, yeah, he's a really good player. Yeah.
Hearing the names that you mentioned, Godin, Muslera, Luis Suarez, Cavani, they were, I think, a golden age in the Uruguayan national team, right? Unfortunately, time stops for no one, and they age, right? It is unfortunate because obviously, as a soccer fan, I think everyone would love to see these type of players always. Um, and there was many talks of I remember when The Last Dance, the documentary from Michael
Yeah.
Jordan came out, they were talking to Diego Godin and Maestro Tavares at the time. What do you think needs to be done for the next qualifiers? What needs to change or what needs to be better?
Um, well, I think, yeah, it's a good question because obviously they're all already starting this, but there has to be a certain identity or a style of play imposed because I mean, there's as a team you should always adapt to certain opponents, but in the main you should have a way of playing and the way you want to represent your country. And with Uruguay, this has been missing certainly in the last qualifiers. Since 2018, Uruguay have regressed as a team for sure. Even though there has been brilliant players coming through and still brilliant players remained in the team, but the lack of identity, which is an absolutely horrific thing to say when you're talking about a team which represents a country, and also the lack of fight, which is finally back now, and that is something you just would never not associate with Uruguay. You would always associate Uruguay with the fight. Maybe a bit too much sometimes, but it's always there. And for Uruguay, that is the most important, recuperating um, just an identity of how they want to play, and also saying goodbye to some certain great servants to the country, which includes Suarez, Cavani, Godin, Muslera, Cáceres. And that is something that I'm absolutely sure will happen over the next 1 or maybe 2 years. And that's hard. Obviously, it's hard, but for Uruguay, it's made more easier because there are a lot of players coming through who are already at a good level. You know, it's not like they are playing in South America still and have to break through. I mean, Araujo is one of the best defenders in Spain, in my opinion. Jimenez, I mean, his injuries are a pain in the backside, but we all know what he is. And there are a lot of more examples of these players that can step in immediately. So yeah.
No, absolutely. There's talent there, and sometimes it makes it harder. I think that's a big problem for all national teams and some managers because, like, you trust in these players that have served you so well that you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and sometimes that's hard. The emotional side of this game, right? Um, Definitely understandable. Now, the upcoming games. Uruguay
Yeah.
sit in fourth place with 22 points. Not far is Ecuador, which is 3 points away, 25, Peru 21, Chile 19, and even Colombia 17, Bolivia 15 that could maybe make it, right? But Uruguay has Peru at home in Montevideo and away at Chile. For you, these games, which one is more accessible for you guys?
Well, I mean, Peru at home is obviously the first one and also the most important one because if Uruguay beat Peru, it's really foreseeable, or how do you say it?
Almost certain.
It's almost certain to be in the World Cup as a direct qualification because Chile play away in Brazil on the same match day. So Chile, even if they get a draw, which is obviously really hard to do, Uruguay would be clear of Chile in terms of they will not be able to reach them anymore. Colombia on 17, they can win obviously, but they will be on 20, and Uruguay, if they win, they will be on 24. So and Peru obviously will stay on 21, and Uruguay will be in 24. So if
25, 25. They'll be in
20,
25.
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. But Peru, Colombia, and Chile cannot reach Uruguay anymore. So then they will be in the World Cup. So that is just, and that's if Brazil obviously do not drop points there or not lose. But I see it as, yeah, I mean, I cannot see that happen, to be honest.
Right.
So for Uruguay, obviously the first game would be they have to win, and it's not like going away at Chile is impossible. But if you are still in need of a win or a draw in Santiago, it's not the best place to go, and any Chile side because it's just such a hard place, you know. So Uruguay have to have all the focus, which obviously they will have first on Peru. And I think it's an interesting game because Peru have given Uruguay a run for their money in the last few years, and certainly in the 2019 Copa America they knocked them out. And we all know that Peru as under Gareca, is such a competitive side and a good footballing side as well. And they had a tough start to the qualifiers, but they are now back in it for sure. And yeah, it will be a really good match, I think. And I mean, sold out Centenario, so I mean, it's a perfect way to seal your qualification for the World Cup. Obviously, yeah.
Is there any since you guys have Peru first? Is there what worries you most about Peru?
Um, I think they're just a good footballing side, and also they have some players with quite good speed. And if we play Godin, this is always a bit of a worry. But overall, I think Peru is just such a dodgy side for Uruguay. It's always been like this in the last few years. They seem to be able to undo Uruguay, and not for a clear reason because it's always been close. You know, it's not like and Uruguay have never been able to blast them away. Also, not at home, or yeah, no, not that I can remember anyway. So it's always a tight game, and then it's about fine margins. And I'm confident that Uruguay will win, by the way. But I would have preferred to have Chile at home, for example, or Colombia. And you can say Colombia might be a better team if you look on paper, purely on paper. But Peru is just a really a good unit, you know. And Gareca, I think Gareca is a really good manager. So that's also a thing. I really admire him for what he's done with the Peruvian national team.
I
Yeah,
agree. I agree. There are on paper better sides, but Peru collectively under Gareca, it's like when they put on that shirt, it transforms them, to be honest.
yeah.
But look, um, David, thank you for your time. Honestly, this has been great. I hope everyone likes this. Please, if you have any closing remarks, if you want to let the people know where they can find you and their Twitter handle and all that.
Okay, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, let's hope we can both enjoy the games next week. You can find me on Twitter at Uruguay Heroes. Used to be Uruguayan Heroes, but suspended now, so we have to do it now with Uruguay Heroes. And yeah, thanks to you all for watching this, and go follow Diego obviously on YouTube. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoy this. This is just one out of the 10 CONMEBOL nations that we're talking about, analyzing. So please comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.